Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I thought I would do a little sit down video to talk about some of the big changes in my life, and I'm sure some of it is gonna come as a major surprise to you. If you watched my last vlog, you know that my family of 3 recently moved across Canada to Calgary, Alberta, and we've been here less than 2 weeks at the time of filming this. As you can imagine, it was a huge change for our family, for myself personally, and I got some questions on Instagram about the move and what's been going on in my life, and so I thought I would make a sit down life update video to just chat with you guys about what's been going on. Sitting down to prepare to record this video has actually been really helpful for me. It's given me an opportunity to reflect and process and to really think about how I feel about this move. I've never been a tea girl. I am a coffee girl through and through, but ever since moving to Calgary with my sister and having her live with us for now, we've been having tea together every night. And now instead of an afternoon coffee, I crave like an afternoon green tea. I think this is a healthy upgrade for me. So grab the beverage of your choice and let's dive in. So the one question that many of you asked is, why are you moving to Calgary? Alex and I are both born in Toronto, Ontario. I have been there my entire 32 years of life. I have never moved away. I did move out of my home when I went to university, but that was only like a 45-minute drive away from where I grew up. I've never left the province. So this came as a shock to not only us, but to my parents. I was really surprised that I was able to make this decision to move to Calgary. But basically, Alex and I have been praying for a very long time, for probably like 2 to 3 years, about where our next chapter of life would be. We were renting a condo in Mississauga. If you've been following the housing market in the GTA, in the Greater Toronto area, it's wild. A small townhouse can easily be $1 million, and even rent prices were going up like crazy. And so as we were growing our family and Charlotte was growing, we weren't necessarily outgrowing our condo, but we were trying to figure out what we were trying to work towards. The longer we stayed closer to the city, we realized that our desire of owning a home felt further and further away. The more we saved, it didn't really make a difference to what we could afford. And so we began looking to the outskirts of the GTA, cities that were a little further, like Ajax or Newmarket or Hamilton. And yeah, I mean, that's what we were doing. We weren't trying to make an immediate move, but we were just always exploring these smaller cities that were slightly more affordable than Toronto. However, in March, there was a big catalyst for our family. I don't know how else to share this, but I found out I was pregnant. I'm currently in my second trimester, and though we were trying for a second, I sure didn't expect it to happen as fast as it did. And so it was a major shock when I took a pregnancy test and found out we were gonna have another baby. I've been sick all day. Like, I feel so nauseous. Alex is outside. I'm pregnant.
Seriously? Really? Is that what you're saying? Oh my god.
I know.
Oh my god. Wait, when did you find out?
Like 10 minutes ago. That was definitely a catalyst to thinking about where we would go next. Ever since having Charlotte, I think Alex and I have been thinking about what we want our family to look like and really thinking through like the vision for our family. He has a full-time job. I have my own small business. I want to continue growing that small business, but I also wanted to be a mom that was really available and flexible. So thinking through these things, it was really important for me to have my own office in my own home. For the past few years, it's been in my parents' basement, which I am so thankful for, as you all know. But even that, like that 10-minute drive, was becoming a barrier for me to work. And because I had to leave my home, it was harder for me to work off hours. So as the years went by, we knew that I needed to work towards bringing my inventory into my own home. And in our tight condo, there was no way that was gonna happen. So the goal was always to get more space. It was just a matter of timing. We just didn't know how that was gonna happen. When we found out we were pregnant, we sat down and had a very serious conversation, me and Alex, about what we should do. And once we really let go of being being near family and friends and being at our current church, it was very clear that Calgary was the answer. The decision was made almost immediately, like in our hearts, and it was just a matter of telling our parents. It was really hard. I can cry on demand just thinking about how hard this decision was, but it was so clear to me that God was opening doors and providing opportunities, like new dreams and hopes for our future through this decision to move. So yeah, this decision was not based on friends or family, unfortunately, but it was based on the vision we have for our family. Honestly, who's to say we're gonna live here forever? I'm open-handed about this, and I know God's plan is always better than mine. If He will have us move back to Toronto one day, I would probably be overjoyed. But if we also come to love Calgary and want to stay here, that would be amazing too. Because the decision was made so quickly, I think something else that was really hard was telling everyone around us that we were moving. It was less about us asking for prayer and discernment, but it was more of us announcing that A, I'm pregnant, and B, we're moving. But our closest friends did understand because they knew the struggles and the challenges that we've been having for years about where God would have us, about where we would live next. Honestly, it just felt really right. This was just another open door for us to walk through. Okay. You guys are also curious, do you have a church there or any family? Okay, so for family, yes. My in-laws, Alex's parents, live in Edmonton, which is like a 2.5-hour drive away. We're so used to seeing them just once a year when we fly or they fly over. So it's really nice that they're just honestly not that long of a drive away. I think them already being in Alberta made Calgary like a choice for us. We've visited Edmonton before earlier this year, and while we couldn't really see ourselves living in Edmonton, and honestly back then we weren't even thinking of moving in general, Calgary felt like a good in-between between Edmonton and where we were coming from, which is Mississauga. In terms of church, we do not have a church yet. We have some recommendations and we have our own list of churches that we're intentionally visiting. And I think it's going to take a few months before we can really commit and settle down to a church. Something I'm learning is you really can't take your church for granted. Like, I loved my church back home. It was so hard leaving. And now that I'm looking for a new church, like honestly, there are amazing churches in Calgary, lots of amazing pastors and people, but now I'm coming in trying to be more critical almost of, what are they teaching? Can I trust these people? Like, what's the community vibe like? And those are all things that I just took for granted at my old church. Like, it just came so naturally because I was there for so long. So yeah, it is hard visiting all these churches, but so far we are very hopeful. The ones we've gone to have been great. Okay, now we're going to talk about Calgary a bit. I think I'm going to do a separate video, maybe in a couple of months, about what it's like. But for now, some of you have been asking me, what are your first impressions of Calgary? My first impression was the drive home from the airport, and I was thinking like, wow, the roads are huge, there's no traffic, and there are just so many houses. Like, we're living in the suburbs of Calgary, we're not downtown in the city, but where we live, like, you just see rolling hills of houses. There are no high rises, and even the apartments are like 3 or 4 stories high, so it all kind of looks the same. And this was like the biggest difference to me from Mississauga or Toronto, because when you look at the horizon, sometimes you can't even see the horizon because there's just so many different types of buildings. But in Calgary, it's just literally green sky and like houses. Downtown obviously does have a lot more higher buildings. Immediately, it felt like I was in Barrie. It wasn't too different than like any other Ontario suburb, except I'm realizing now that there are just no lakes. That's going to be something I'm going to miss a lot. I really loved cottage country in Ontario. I loved going to the lake and just seeing that huge body of water. But Calgary there's alpine lakes in the mountains, but that's kind of it. Another thing I noticed is that there are just so many kids and young families. And again, we're in the suburbs, and so it's probably disproportionate here. There are actually a lot. I heard that Calgary was a great place to raise your family, and I have to say there are a lot of amenities for young families. What else? Oh, the weather. Let's talk about the weather. I've only been here 2 weeks, but I've already seen 3 hailstorms, some rain, really sunny days, and really gloomy days. It's like the weather is so unpredictable here, and it changes so fast. Also, the sun sets so late here. Like last night, it was 10:30 p.m. and it was so bright outside. The days are very long in the summer, but I am worried about the winter because that means the days are going to be even shorter. We'll see what I think of Calgary after my first winter season. But so far, it's been fine. I don't mind considering the unpredictable weather. I was also surprised to see a lot of Asians in Calgary. From the few places I've gone out to, it does feel predominantly Caucasian, but there are so many Asians here too. It's quite diverse, and I love that there are actually a lot of options for Korean food, Korean groceries, and I would say there's more than Mississauga, which is a big bonus for us. So the next few questions I got was about how we got our house and how we moved. So like more logistics. Honestly, if you have any questions, you can message me. Long story short, we bought our house virtually. It was a really easy process. And I think it's because our realtor was somebody that we trusted. He was a friend of a friend who now is our friend. He went to all the showings and FaceTimed us, gave us his honest opinions about listings. And because this is the first property that Alex and I have ever purchased, we don't know any other process. Like, this is all we know. Something that did surprise me though is that the Calgary market is hot. I think if you're buying like a condo, it's probably a lot easier, but to buy like a starter home, which is what we did, we have a 3-bedroom townhouse, and within the budget that we had, things were like getting off the market within a day. We actually put in 7 offers, and most of the time we had no conditions on our offer, and I think our offers were pretty competitive, and most of the time we came in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place. It got really frustrating in that month because I was in first trimester, I was so nauseous, and it was just frustrating because this move was already so emotional on me. But at the perfect time, the perfect house, God provided, and it was a smooth process. We hired lawyers in Calgary, the signing was done remotely, and then Alex moved. Alex moved into this house. He painted the walls white, and then 2 weeks later, Charlotte, Suji, and I flew in, and we've been here since. In terms of shipping our stuff, we used U-Haul. They have this system called the U-Box, which is literally like a metal crate, and you pay per box. Like, there is a max limit, but I don't think they actually weigh it, or it's a very high limit. We got 2 of those boxes, and that was around $3,000. And we found that this was the cheapest way to do it. So what you do is you fill the boxes and they'll ship it across country and they'll deliver it to your door. But you have to load and unload the boxes yourself. And so because I was pregnant, we actually hired separate movers, and that was around $500. And they loaded our stuff from our condo into the box. They also took the boxes to U-Haul. U-Haul brought it to Calgary. They stored it at one of their U-Haul locations until we needed it. And then when Alex arrived, he unloaded the box himself with his brother and his dad. We also shipped our car. That was around $1,800. It was pretty easy. It came within a few days. It would have been a cool road trip if I wasn't pregnant and if we didn't have a toddler, but I thought $1,800 was a pretty good price considering the cost of
gas, food, mileage, hotel, and having to take like 3 or 4 days off of work.
It's not that hard to move cross country, but it was just like the mental stuff that was really hard. We also ended up staying at my parents' for about a month, and that month was probably one of the best months of my life. Like, despite feeling so tired and emotionally drained, I loved being back home. It did make the move a lot harder because we got that really special time right before we moved. But thank the Lord for FaceTime. Okay, there's just a few more questions. How am I setting up my studio in Calgary? We're actually renovating our basement for the next month, which is why I am set up here in my kitchen. This is not ideal. My shop opens in 2 days and I really wanted to stick to that deadline. I've set up like a temporary shop in the kitchen. I really hope that these cards do not start smelling like kimchi or meat. I'm just praying that paper does not absorb scent, but I know it does. So please, if you make an order from me, like, do not smell your package. Oh gosh, it's just literally right across my kitchen. I'm setting up my studio in the basement, which is why we had to get it finished. But in terms of other logistics, like Stallion and Chit Chats have locations in Calgary, so that's very ideal for my shipping. They have a U-Line in Edmonton, which is really useful, and most of my manufacturers ship to my address anyway, and so it's just another Canadian address. The last few questions are, how are you exploring Calgary, and what outdoor activities are you going to try first? I think exploring Calgary is both easy and hard with a toddler. It's easy because there's a lot of farms and parks and playgrounds that we can go to, and Charlotte will have the time of her life there. There are so many things for kids here. But I think it's harder to visit restaurants. And that's something that I miss. I miss eating out. And I know we can do it with a toddler, but it's just not as enjoyable. But anyway, I have a list of things I want to tackle this summer. So I'm very excited. And of course, we're like an hour and a half away from Banff. We are going this Saturday and it's going to be amazing. That's a big part of why we moved to Calgary. And outdoor activities, honestly, it's hard because I'm pregnant, but there's a lot of places we can walk here, like a lot of trails. We're gonna go hiking, obviously. I think we want to get back into camping. Like, we want our kids to grow up camping and loving the outdoors, hopefully. One day in the future, I would love to get back into climbing. There's a pretty big climbing culture here because of the mountains. And the winters are long, so we have to start doing some winter sports. I would eventually love to get back onto a snowboard or skis. This is something I'll probably do concurrently with Charlotte. I just think it'd be so cute to teach Charlotte how to snowboard. And the Calgary Stampede is happening in about a month, so that's another thing that I can't wait to check out. Anyway, thank you so much. If you listened to this whole video, thank you so much for just journeying along with me in this huge life transition. Like, I can't even communicate or express how crazy this all feels, and I don't think I've actually processed it yet, which is why I sound so cool about it all. But I think God is also protecting my mind and my heart from going to dark thoughts and really just providing everything we need so far and opening doors for us and making this move so smooth. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have heard about this move months ago. If you want to know more updates and personal updates, you can always follow me at By Sarah Kim or Sale at Paper. Yeah, the shop opens in 2 days, so I hope to get back into some more studio vlogs. I want to share more about my pregnancy with you too. That's something that's been going on. It's just a lot. I'm glad I finally sat down to explain how we got here. Yeah, I will stop talking now. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave me a comment if you're in Calgary or if you have any other questions. And subscribe to see some more Calgary vlogs. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!